we can now go across to France 24's former Moscow correspondent Nick Holdsworth. Nick, what are some of the main takeaways from Putin's speech so far?
Well, he started very firmly by rejecting any idea that NATO or the West could escalate the war in Ukraine by putting troops on the ground. He said that the West must ultimately understand that Russia also has weapons. They know about it, and they know that those weapons can reach their territory, he said. Referring to the Swedes and the Finns joining NATO, he said that they would strengthen the Russian military presence on the borders of those countries. And he reiterated that the war in Ukraine isn't over yet. He said, we didn't start the war in Donbass, which is the eastern secessionist part of Ukraine, where a lot of fighting has been taking place. And he said that they would do everything to eradicate Nazism, which is how he terms the government in Kiev. He was visibly angry at any suggestion that, as President Macron had suggested a few days ago, that NATO troops could be put on the ground in Ukraine, saying that Western politicians must remember the fate of those who've invaded Russia in the past, the fate of Napoleon Bonaparte 200 years ago and the fate of Adolf Hitler 80 years ago. He said, but now the consequences would be much more tragic. They think the war is a cartoon. So he started very firmly, then he went on to talk about how Russian society supported the war and how Russia was ready to build a new international order and forge new financial contacts with parts of the world which are not against its invasion of Ukraine, the global south, for example. He did say that he was ready for talks with the US and with the West over strategic objectives, but Russia would not be forced into those talks.
Okay, so he went through a whole range of subjects there. Now, Nick, tomorrow the world's eyes will be focused on Russia once again, this time for the funeral service of opposition leader Alexei Navalny. Given that there's going to be this intense scrutiny, do you suspect authorities in Moscow will crack down on any people who come out and sympathize with the fact that he's gone?
Well, Navalny's widow, Yulia Navalnaya, was speaking yesterday to the European Parliament in Strasbourg, a city which she had visited with Alexei and their children in the past, in which she said they loved walking around. She said that she suspected the Russian authorities may use the funeral as an opportunity to arrest people. She said that they've not been given any peace, that Navalny had been tortured in prison, and the authorities had since tortured his mother by refusing to release the body immediately, and also by blocking any attempt to have a large public memorial service. Tomorrow's service is going to be at the local church in Marino district of Russia, where Navalny lived with his family, followed by a burial in Borivskoye cemetery, which is nearby. And the opposition people from Navalny's organization are saying, if you want to come and pay your respects, come early. It is quite likely that the authorities will try to prevent this becoming a large public display of opposition to Putin just 2 weeks ahead of the presidential elections.
Indeed. We'll see how things pan out tomorrow. Nick, thank you very much for that. Nick Holdsworth reporting there.